president of United Franchise Group Consulting Division, and we want to thank you. I also see a consulting brand, Accurate Franchising Inc., if I'm saying that correctly. Can you define exactly what those two companies are?
You bet. And hopefully all 17 of those things that Julie has are good things.
Well,
yeah, you bet.
I'll be honest, it was so many I didn't get to the bottom. I mean, there may be a few at the bottom that you don't like, but other than that, it all looked good to me, man.
all good. Yeah, so, as Mark shared, I'm the president of United Franchise Group's Consulting Division. One of the products that I work a lot with our Transworld Business Advisor franchisees and brokers throughout the world is on the AFI side, which is Accurate Franchising Incorporated. And what we do with Accurate is we actually will take a company that is not a franchise, but could be a franchise, and we'll take that company and we'll do all the development work from ground zero to turning back a complete comprehensive franchise package for that client that they can now take and start growing. And that process is not a short process nor an easy process, but it's one that we're very good at. We've been in franchising for 35 years. We've got 1,700 franchise locations, about 80 countries we're in now. So this is something that we do day in and day out, which gives us a really good perspective when we work with a franchisor client, because we look at it through the lens of a franchisor, not a legal law firm or a boutique company that's putting franchise packages together. We look at it as, if this was our franchise, how would we structure it? How would we develop it? But that process is about 120 days from when we start with a brand new client to taking them to a complete franchise that we could then deliver back to them, and they can begin the franchising journey. And we can also help that client, if they don't have the bandwidth to sell their franchise, to sell it for them. And we've got an incredible organization with Transworld out there throughout the United States. They do a phenomenal job for us. So that's another asset that we bring to the table, is we've got a built-in sales force already that we can, provide this client's franchise opportunity with, to get it out there to the masses. So that's what we do.
So Tipton, I understood about 10% of that. Okay, and so, but one thing is clear: there's a reason why Mark brought you on the show, right? It's clear you are the man and you are the master. Let's break that up, right? Let's kind of take it in pieces. One of the reasons Mark and I are so impressed with what you guys do, I'm going to speak for you for a second, Mark. Stop me. Which you do so well. And that is, we can't do this, right? What you do is not something a broker can do. There is a tremendous amount of skill required to take a great business model and turn it into a franchise. And that's something that you guys do extremely well. So collaborating with people like Mark and I in Transworld is so important. Is that how you generate most of your clients? Or can they come to you directly? What is your lead source in general to do that?
Joe, great question. In fact, if I look at last year, a good number did come from Transworld. I would say about 25, 27% in that range came from our Transworld family. And then the balance came from a variety of things. We do a lot of online advertising. We're out there at virtual trade shows, being, the COVID year that we had. And then, we've got a good presence too online, with all the online advertising that we do.
So I'm going to ask you a question, but I don't want you to answer it because I want to back up. So I'm going to ask you, what is a good franchising model look like that what are you looking for to say this is a good franchise? But don't answer that yet. What I want to ask you is, how in the world did you get here? I mean, you didn't wake up on a Tuesday and say, I think I want to help people franchise. Let's go backwards. Now, you don't have to go back to 1963, right? But give me a little bit of your background.
Yeah, you bet. So, quick story. I grew up in a family of physicians. I've got 26 doctors in my family, mom, dad, brother, sister. I said, you know what? I don't want to be in medicine. At the time, I was really going towards investment banking, graduated with that. Didn't really want to get into that business once I learned what that business was all about at the time, because being transactional based back then. But fast forward. So I learned about franchising, and I said, okay, let me go work in a franchise business. And I did that at a General Nutrition Centers in Columbus, Ohio. Responsibilities increased. I became an area manager for the franchisee, And I'm like, this is pretty cool. What I thought was just a part-time gig or something that would just be a stepping stone actually was something I started enjoying. From there, the parent company, General Nutrition Centers out of Pittsburgh, recruited me. I became a regional franchise consultant overseeing Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, and had about 50 franchisees. And then I was promoted into South Florida, which was the highest volume franchise region for the company at the time. This would have been back in 95. And from there, I did everything I needed to do in that position to be promoted to head up the franchise division. So I was moved out to Southern California and was running the franchise side of the company out there. And we sold in 2000. And when we sold, being a publicly traded company, and we were setting ourselves up for an acquisition anyway, but when we sold, I said, you know what? I love this franchising thing. I want to stay in it. And I had met Ray Titus, CEO of United Franchise Group. And he says, look, with your retail background, your specialty retail franchising background, you'd be a great fit. You know, we have one brand right now called Sonorama, but we're bringing on this other brand. And we think you'd be a great fit. So I left Southern California and a company that had 12,000 employees and, you know, went to West Palm Beach. And I loved Ray. I loved the culture he had designed. There's only about 20 employees when I started and about 400 Sonoramas. And I just fell in love with it. It felt like a startup. It felt like something I could be a part of and a place where I could plant my roots and grow. So I did that. And I've been with the company now for the past nearly 20 years. And I've served in a variety of capacities along the way, heading up divisions of our organization and about 8 years on the international side, taking our brands into 70 plus countries today. And so franchising is in my DNA, and we've got an excellent culture with United Franchise Group. But more importantly, you know, with all the experience I had, I said, you know what, at this point in my career, the best place for me to be is working with potential franchisors and even existing franchisors who call on us because they'll call on us to say, hey, look, we're in a rut. We need help selling in a specific market. We just signed Dairy Queen, for example, in South Florida. Of course, they're a great name. But it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy that so much, and that's what got me to where I am today, frankly.
So thank you. I appreciate that. I want to take a break, but before we go to break, describe for us what I would in my business I'd call it a buyer profile. What does a good candidate look like? If there's a guy out there that has a business model that he's been running for a while and feels pretty good about it, what are some of the things he should consider or you would consider that he'd be a good candidate for franchising?
Sure. So, you know, a lot of the questions that I ask, and sometimes they've already been answered in talking with a potential client, but you want to have a business that is duplicatable. You want to have processes and systems in place. You want to have something that is going to stand out among others that might be in the same industry. And so oftentimes, you know, when I talk to a client, they'll say, hey, look, the reason I'm going down this path is because I've had 3 or 4 people a week ask me, hey, how do I get one of these businesses? Is this a franchise? And that's typically what prompts somebody to look into this opportunity.
That's interesting. Let's take a break and we'll come back. We'll continue to talk with you, my friend. And we are back. We are talking, you are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. We are talking with Tipton. I apologize. I cannot pronounce your last name. Tipton, please pronounce your last name because I don't want to destroy it for you.
Vagnone. No, it's Shonkwiler. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tipton is the president of United Franchise Group's consulting division, which includes franchise consulting brand Accurate Franchising Inc., which is actually what we're talking about here, right, Mark? I mean, this is the arm.
Yep.
I want to dig into this because Mark and I have got some we're going to take the success and pat ourselves on the back, Tipton, even though it was your companies that did it, right? So we're proud of ourselves for finding you, right? So that. But before we do that, guys, let's have some fun. I know this just because from years past, franchising is something people love to talk about. It's one of the best topics of the show. Tipton, do you have a list of, say, maybe 5 franchises that you just want to throw out there for people to know something about?
Yeah, you know, look, I'll be a little biased. We've got a great portfolio of brands ourselves, but Venture X is one right now that's just been phenomenal for us. You know, going through the year we had last year, and of course, a lot of companies saying we're going to have our employees, you know, work from home because of the restrictions and so forth. It was a great benefit for Venture X, which is a co-work model of ours. They typically run in size from 15,000 to 50,000 square feet. But, we have everything from a startup company to an established, large Fortune 500 company who will rent space in a VentureX, because we've got a lot of great things. We have a community environment there where there's a lot of best practice sharing among, again, everything from a new company to a mature company.
So Tipton, a VentureX is sort of a key man office concept. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What's another one you got?
Another one I would say right now, and Mark will hit on this certainly, but Transworld's been excellent because right now with a lot of people who have either been furloughed, they're laid off, they're not wanting to go back to corporate America. There's a huge swing that's happening with a lot of people saying, okay, we want to go out and buy a business. And so Transworld is a beneficiary of that kind of activity.
Tipton, just take that off your list. I don't need any more competition, Tipton. I mean, really. I'm just
not a problem.
I'm just kidding. You are right. It is a wonderful organization. You're absolutely correct.
As is Sonorama. You look at companies now that are starting up. They need signage, they need graphics. We did a lot of that too back during COVID with directional signage and, hey, we're open, drive-through open, all that stuff.
And the stickers it's on the floor just to make sure I know how to stay 6 feet away, and that's what.
Absolutely. Then you know what? I'm going to grab a couple from my AFI clientele list here. We have one that's called Celebrity Soul Food. And that is it's very unique, obviously, with soul food, but it's a great company out of Ocala, Florida. We've got a great relationship with them. They've hit it strong out of the gate. They've got very good food. They've got a nice, ambiance that they've developed in their model, and they're growing pretty quickly.
Is that fast casual or
fast casual?
Okay,
you bet. It's fast casual.
Okay, give me one more.
Yep. Parlay Cafe is one too that is starting up with us. So I talked about VentureX. So again, 15,000 to say 50,000 square feet, but this is much smaller. Imagine a Starbucks on steroids where you've got a cafe component and then you've got some, larger seating than a normal Starbucks would have. And we rent day passes with that one. There's you could buy weekly passes, monthly passes. There's a good bit of that business that comes from just the cafe component of it. It's been really, really good for us this early on, and that's another one, Parlay Cafe.
I send clients to franchise groups all the time, just if nothing else, to see what's happening, what's moving, where the trends are, and that sort of stuff in industry. I appreciate you guys doing that. So let's talk about the Rims Company, because I watched you, Mark. This is a great example of how Mark Bonnier takes his 35 years of big business experience and hands it to a small business client and say, this is what I think you should do. And I thought you were crazy. I thought you were crazy, right? And you said, Joe, Transworld's got a connection with a great company. I'm going to help them take this to a franchise level, and I'm going to double the value of their business when they do that. And honestly, I've watched you do that from the start to the finish. Tipton, are you familiar with this organization, RGM?
RGX, absolutely.
Yes.
They're great. Great concept.
So walk me through why you guys felt like it was a good model, because honestly, as a small business broker, when I looked at it, I had questions on whether it can actually be duplicated. Can you walk me through some of the positive aspects of why you guys felt like it had a good franchise model?
You bet. So really, looking at RGX, when I first looked at it like yourself, I looked at it and said, you know what, it's both mobile and they have, a brick and mortar location. And in franchising in general, the mobile franchises are really taking off fast. So that's been a trend we've seen in the last, 36 months in the mobile space. So the fact that it was mobile, the fact that they had something that was trainable. Again, if you have a business where there's so many dynamics and complexities and all those things, those are companies that I would say, you know what, frankly, it doesn't really make sense to make your business a franchise. In the case of RGX, they had a great system, a great process in place, and that's something I referenced earlier as a key ingredient. They had that, they do it very well, and it's something that can be trained. So that's why we felt, you know what, it's unique, it's mobile, it's trainable. this makes sense to make it a franchise.
And Mark, I guarantee you, he had this information that I read at the beginning of the show that automotive franchise is number 6 on the list of trending. So I suspect he knew something that I didn't know. Right.
A lot of times, what we see is, you get somebody that comes down from Canada. That's one that happens pretty quickly for a client, and they say, "Hey, I love this idea. I see this as a franchise. How do I get one in Toronto, or how do I get one in Vancouver?" And so what we'll do is we could take that franchise and we could actually do an international packaging for it and help get it into another country like Canada, or in the case of most English speaking countries, England, with the UK, we've got Australia, we do a lot there, South Africa. We have ourselves, like I mentioned, 80 countries that we're in, and we've got 6 international offices now. So it's very easy for us to take a client and help get them into international markets through master licensing. And then also the reverse of that, which is taking companies from other foreign markets and bringing them here to North America.
And we are back. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone, and I am here with the owner of Trans World in Lake Norman area, and also the president of United Franchise Group Consulting Division, and also a Acura Franchising Inc. If I have that correct, Tipton, could you help us define the difference between the two?
You bet. So simply, Acura Franchising is a brand, is a company of United Franchise Group. So when I referenced earlier that United Franchise Group has 10 brands, Acura Franchising is one of those brands. So we fall under the United Franchise Group umbrella.
Okay, great. And so we don't have a lot of time, but I want to give you a chance to talk to the small business person that's listening right now and thinking about franchising in the middle of the worst economic conditions you could possibly imagine, right? What are your thoughts for them? Why would I consider expanding in the middle of this environment?
That's a really easy one to answer. In fact, last year, if I look at last year, we had 35 companies that we turned into franchises. In the second half of the year was about 23 of that 35 that occurred. So you could start to see a trend happening there. And so many companies right now are taking that opportunity because they've been able to pivot during COVID. They've been able to put new things in place to help grow their business even further. And they're taking advantage of the time now because they know that whether it's April, it's early summer, whenever it is, when things do open back up, there's going to be a wave of activity. Once the U.S. and other parts of the world have that reassurance that, hey, the vaccine is in place, we've got business back to somewhat normal, there's going to be a surge of activity. So there's a great opportunity right now for anybody that's thinking about it to learn about it and get a good sense for what it's all about and what that franchise journey looks like with no obligation, and make an informed decision once they've had a chance to do that.
And I think that's it, Tipton. What you guys do for no obligation is to tell them and assess, yes, this is the right way to go, or no. And so that, that really is, Mark, in my opinion, the real story that we're saying here, right? If you're even considering it, contact Mark. Let's get you in touch with the United Franchise Group, and let's see if there's a good fit.
And I would encourage any business to contact Transworld Lake Norman, and we'll do a business information guide or a business intelligence guide and a hyper growth plan. It's no cost, and it may give you a few good ideas on progressing ahead. And
again, that they can just go to Transworld and find you there, correct?
Transworld Lake Norman, yes.
Tipton, any last word, buddy? We got probably 30 seconds for you, my friend.
Certainly. You can look us up with United Franchise Group if you Google our brand, or even Acura Franchising, and you got of course with Mark. He's a great asset for us. So if you're in the area, reach out to Mark, and happy to assist.
Thank you guys both. I really do appreciate it. You're listening to Local Biz Now, and if it's Friday morning, we're talking about franchising your business. We'll see you next week.